Hello, it's Reija and welcome to another video in a little bit of a different setting this time. I was supposed to do a discussion video on procrastination and follow-through, which was supposed to go up a week ago. So I am fully aware of the irony that I am in effect procrastinating by making another video instead. Anywho, I saw this video on Emma's channel on Drinking by My Shelf, and I thought that it was a super cool idea. So I thought that I would react to my TBR videos that I've put out this year and see what books I've actually managed to read. And also, if I haven't read those books, I will give myself a little bit of a punishment. Now, I don't drink much, so I thought that if I need to punish myself, it would have to be with a punishment snack instead. So my partner got me these salty licorice candies, which I notoriously despise. So every time there's a book I haven't read, I have to eat one of these. I really need to bring this game back next year. Hopefully, if I make it like a game of every other month and maybe do a little less prompts, then maybe it will be less of a stressor. So yeah, leave me a comment down below, should I bring this game back next year?
Yeah, let's see right now to read funny books. I want drama, I want killings, I want darkness. All the things I wasn't ready for last year.
All the things I'm not ready for now.
Neuromancer. All of the books on these shelves are books that I either haven't read or need to reread, and I haven't read Neuromancer. So the first book Bold has picked is Neuromancer.
I still haven't read Neuromancer. Okay. This is off to a good start. First book, haven't read it. Still want to read it. Oh god. Okay. Oh god, I can't even swallow this. Why is it so chewy? Ah. Ah, that was awful. Awful.
Round 2 was graphic novel. So we have like one on this shelf,
Oh,
some
no.
on that shelf, and over there is my whole graphic novel and manga shelf. So what are you going to be?
Oh no. Ah. Yes, I still hate him.
I hate you. I didn't even pass calculus, by the way. I suck at math.
Goodbye. This is what you get. It is a graphic novel.
You are not wrong. It is a graphic novel, not quite what I had in mind. This is basically a book that teaches you all about encryption and decryption.
Yes, yes, it's a book that teaches you all about encryption and decryption, which I still haven't read. Like, I browsed through it, I like read through some of the assignments, but the thing is, that book is like, if you want to actually like delve deep and learn those things, you have to have a notebook and pen and actually do the assignments, and I wasn't ready for that. So no, I did not read it. Next one. This one apparently has some like gummy bear type gelatinous thing on it. Ugh. It's not as bad as the last one, but it's not good either. Now I'm kind of wishing that I did have some wine. Please let me have read the other ones.
Do multitasking and listen to it at the same time, because I have had better success reading nonfiction when I listen to it on audio. I find it easier to focus on the text and what is being told to me when I can, for example, knit and or crochet at the same time.
Okay. Yes, I listened to this book on audio, but I also utilize the physical copy. So at times I would have the physical copy at the ready and also look at the source list and stuff as the author was talking about it. But yeah, I actually really liked this book. So yay, first one I have completed. But yeah, this one wasn't a 5-star read, but it was a 4-star read. So yeah, I really enjoyed that book and would recommend it.
Those are the ones where I clearly know that the protagonist is...
You get the robot.
Bold has picked Autonomous by Annalee Nuyts, and this is a book...
And I have read it! Woohoo! Okay, I really liked Autonomous. It has some problems with it, but I overall really enjoyed the story, and considering that it was Annalee Nuyts' it was their debut, I think it was really good, and having read it earlier this year, I think it has aged well in a sense.
You're getting one very special book that is not very long, that you did not finish. You really should.
This one?
No, not that one. It's actually even shorter than that. This is my show.
Oh no.
This thing. You really need to read this.
Yes. Previously I read about 15 pages of this and promptly put it down.
Okay, I finished this one. I finished Time Management, and clearly it did not do me any favors, considering that I am still procrastinating, I am still failing to meet deadlines, and I am still failing to cut big projects into smaller portions so that they are easier to complete. So it was a read, but consider I read it, I underlined things, I took notes and stuff. I went in really hoping to get something out of it, but clearly that hasn't worked. So maybe I should retroactively lower the score from 3 to 2 stars. But is it the fault of the book if I'm failing as a human being, though? That's another topic. And that was the last book of TBR Jenga, so 3 out of 5, not that bad. So this one is for the OWLs and Classic SFF Readathon, so for April. So let's see how I did here.
It's Reija, and welcome to another video. Well, it is that time of the year again when the magical readathon rolls around with the owls portion of the year. First prompt that I will have to complete is arithmancy, which is to read a book that is outside of your usual genre. And I'm going to twist this prompt a little bit because How Long Till Black Future Month by N.K. Jemisin is definitely speculative fiction, and it has both fantasy and science fiction stories in it. But it definitely falls into that side of SFF which I don't usually gravitate towards, and that is short story collect.
Yeah, I started this, and I'm about, I want to say 25% in to this book. But once again, I just put it down. I was enjoying the stories and I parked it. So I need to come up with a different sort of way to tackle short story collections, because I seem to have this problem that I read a couple of stories and then I just put the book down and don't pick it up again for some reason. So I guess that means it's time for another candy, huh? Okay, this is some kind of licorice. Oh, this is nasty. It's sour on top but sweet on the inside. I hope you like the sight of my suffering. I have a feeling this is gonna be a long video.
The next subject that I have to complete is Charms, which is Lumos Maxima, a book with a white cover. And for that, I am going to be reading Kindred by Octavia E. Butler.
Yay!
This is an alternative history, time-traveling speculative fiction book.
I finished Kindred in about a day. I sat down, I started it, and I finished in almost one go. I really love that book. It is a harrowing read. Rachel from Kalanadi said it best, that Kindred is it is not so much about enjoyment, it is about witnessing a tragedy and a travesty and like witnessing a horrific event. It doesn't matter what I think about Kindred. The most important thing is the witnessing of it, you know? So yeah, I really like this book a lot.
The next subject that I have to complete is herbology, which is to read a book that starts with an M. The title starts with an M, and for that I'm going to be reading Moonshine by Jasmine Bauer, and this is about sort of like an alternative 1920s with the whole flapper scene, Harlem Renaissance thing, but it deals with the Prohibition era, and it deals with the idea that what if the thing that was being prohibited wasn't alcohol, but it was like mana, it was the source of magic.
Yeah, haven't read this book. Damn it. Still want to though. It's like this was one of those books that I bought as a complete cover buy, and it just sits on my shelf taunting me. Like, it looks beautiful and I want to read it, but also I never seem to pick it up when I put it on my TBR, so bottoms up. Okay, once I get into it, this isn't actually that bad. It's like has some weird like gelatinous texture to it. Like, it isn't good, but it isn't nearly as bad as the other one. This one's almost kind of like sweet. The things I do for content.
My next subject is potions, which is to read a book that is under 150 pages. And for this, I am going to be reading The Last Children of Tokyo by Yoko Tawada.
Yay! I read this. It was okay. It was, I would say it was mediocre. It was kind of meandering, and the journey is more important than the actual, like, story. It is a sort of like a pastiche, following the life of this old man. It was okay, but and the presentation of it is beautiful, but I don't think I'm ever going to read this again.
And finally, for the Animage seminar, I will have to read an extra book that is for Transfiguration, which is to read a book or a series that includes shapeshifting. And for that, I am going to be picking up Run and the Grey World, Volume 1 by Aki Irie. This is about this young girl called Run.
Yeah, I have now read, I think I'm only missing 3 volumes, which I can get from the library, but I've read over half of this series, and it's a kind of a mixed bag for me, because there's some child grooming in it, and an older adult man lusting after a minor, which is kind of like not something that I tend to fancy. So yeah, but I read it.
And next I will go over the books that I will be reading for the Women Write Classic Asafath Readathon. The first book that I have is Alana by Tamara Pierce, the first adventure. This is the...
Yeah, didn't read that. Still haven't read it. Want to read it, still haven't read it. Okay, here goes. This one's actually not half bad. This is pretty good. Not much of a punishment.
Dragon's Bane by Barbara Hambly. This is the first book in the Winterlands Quartet. And
haven't read it. I started it and parked it. I am at about 50% with that book. Freak. This is a salty licorice skull and crossbones. This candy looks exactly like how I feel. Who makes these things? Who in their right mind thought that this was a good candy? It tastes so bitter.
if I, for some like miracle, manage to read all of these books. Then, if I have time, I will start my reread of the Riverside series, and I will be reading Source Point by Ellen Kushner, which is one of my favorite books of all time.
I am still reading Source Point, but honestly, because that was an extra book, I am not taking a candy for not finishing Source Point. Not to mention, I have read it multiple times in the past, so I'm giving myself grace on this one. Okay, next up is my Reading Rush TBR, and I am no longer endorsing Reading Rush because this was the glorious time before the hosts of that readathon had well and truly fucked up. So, yeah. But let's see. How did I do?
With a cover that's the same color as your birthstone. And I am a Pisces, and my birthstone is aquamarine. So that means that I need to read a book that has a blue-toned cover. And for this, I am going to be reading Temper by Nikki Drayden. This,
We're not off to a good start. Okay, here goes. I wonder how many of these do I have to eat before I lose my sense of taste. Okay, so haven't read Temper. Need to get on that.
To read a book that starts with the word the. And for this, I am reading The Empress of Salt and Fortune by Nivo. This is one of my most anticipated releases for the year.
And I read it, I loved it. Highly anticipating the next one. I basically pre-ordered it for Christmas for myself because the second one is coming out like this week. And yeah, highly recommend The Empress of Salt and Fortune.
Is to read a book that inspired a movie that I've already seen. And for this one, I am going to be reading the very first Rose of Versailles book by Ryoko Ikeda. This series inspired the 39-episode anime
Yes, it did.
series that...
Fuck. So, I am about 30% into Rose of Versailles Volume 1, and I have the rest of the published volumes awaiting on my shelf to be read. And yeah, it just... I don't know why, I just stopped being in the mood for historical fiction for some reason, so I didn't finish it. That's the theme here. I've parked so many of these books after I've started reading them.
So for this challenge, I will be reading Beastars Volume 1 by Maru Itagaki.
I have read it. I read Beastars Volume 1 and yeah. I'm actually surprised. There seems to be like this consensus that I read like half of the things in my TBRs, and then I just don't get to the other half. So what this tells me then is that I really need to check myself and not make these ambitious TBRs because they don't work.
Is a polarizing one, and that is to read a book completely outside your house, which is a very interesting challenge to have during a global pandemic, but in any case. I will be using Auringonlaskun Torni by Tiina Kaila for this one. This is a sort of Narnia-inspired fairy tale that was first written and published in the 1950s, I think. And I will put the cover somewhere here because I don't have...
Sorry, I'm losing my ability to speak, apparently, but this is another book that I parked. I have read about half of it, and I should probably finish it, but haven't yet. So, let's go for a crocodile. How do these candies sell? Oh, there's like a weird minty flavor. I'm never doing this challenge again. Never again.
Read a book from a genre that you've always wanted to read more from. And for this, I'm going to be reading Get Alive, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is a romance book, and I have been meaning to get into more romance. And
have read it, loved it, read the sequel. Talia Hibbert is my go-to romance author at this point. Because, yeah, she's made me realize that I can actually like a romance book if it has interesting characters. So, yeah, highly enjoyed this book.
Takes place in a different continent from you. That is basically all of the books that I ever read. Basically, aside from the Finnish one, all of these books would feel that challenge. But for this one, I am going to be reading Intelligence, Artificial and Human, 8 science fiction tales by Japanese authors.
Read it. It was a hit and miss, mediocre. Some stories were thought-provoking and interesting, and others not so much. But, you know, it was a freebie at a con, so I don't mind. It introduced me to a few authors that I am now interested to pick up more from, so that was great. I'm actually surprised at how well I did for this readathon, considering that it was like 7 days mid-pandemic. I'm actually really, once again, there's a theme. I read half of the things that I said I was going to read. So I sense that this is a habit that I need to break. Okay, and next one is my Space Opera September TBR. I have a feeling that this is the one that will break me because I remember finishing only one thing for Space Opera September, if that.
So, I'm going to start with reading Record of a Spaceborne Few by Becky Chambers.
Yes, I read it. I did it. No, wait. Was this the only book that I finished and the rest are just gonna be me eating salty candy? No! Anyway, yes, I finished this book, and it wasn't my favorite Wayfarer's book. That one is still a Closed and Common Orbit. Hopefully the last one that's coming out in February, near my birthday, will be great. Will be a great conclusion to the series. But anyway, I enjoyed this, 3.5 stars. There were some bits that I would have removed, but for the most part, I thought that it was good.
Next up, I'm going to be picking up Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky, and this has sentient spiders because of a terraforming mishap.
Yep. But even sentient spiders weren't enough to entice me to read it during Space Opera September, nor the rest of the months that followed. Okay. Let's try this one. I haven't tried this one yet. Oh my god, this might be the worst. And I fear that if I bite into this, it's gonna it holds inside a nasty surprise. I just know it. Should I bite into it? I'm gonna bite into it. No. I shouldn't have done that. I should not have done that. It's like eating gravel.
I was going to try and get Bubble 17 because me, Leah Cooper, and a bunch of other...
So, interestingly, I did read Bubble 17 just the other month, and yeah, I kind of wish that would have been on this TBR instead of Nova, because guess what? Guess who didn't read Nova? Okay. I'm gonna try this one that looks like a pill that no one should ever put in their mouth. Could be worse. Could be worse. Like, it's still god awful, but it's leagues better than the other ones in this bowl.
Then I'm going to be reading a novella, Sisters of the Vast Black, which is basically nuns in space.
Yay!
I got on it at the library, and I am just waiting for my hold to come in.
Surprise! I finished it! Yay! I finished Sisters of the Vast Black. I don't have to eat. I don't have to eat a salty licorice. I thought that I had only finished the one thing, but yay! I finished two things for Space Opera September. This went better than expected. Yay!
Then I'm going to be reading Ancillary Sword by Anne Leckie. This is the continuation to Ancillary Justice, which I read last year for Space Opera September. So once again, it feels very apt and very fitting to be continuing on with this trilogy.
Yeah, about that. I didn't read it. I still want to though, but yeah, that didn't happen. Funny how that works, you know, when you try to write a thesis and there's a pandemic and stuff, you kind of stop reading. Or I'm just making excuses. Oh my. I'm gonna have to do it, aren't I? Okay. Okay, so it's a kind of like a taco shape. It tastes of disappointment, which is how I feel about my track record on these TBRs.
And finally, I have Gideon the Ninth, which is arguably a space opera. There are spaceships, at least two.
Yeah. I still haven't read Gideon. Yeah, I was supposed to buddy read it with Jenna, and then Jenna noped out at around the first part, saying that it was trash, and I kind of just fell off the bandwagon there. I still want to read it. I still have a copy. Please tell me this is the last one. Okay, this is a dinosaur of some sort. Let's go. Jenna, if you're watching this, I blame you. And there you have it. This was the worst decision I have made in a while. I don't know if the end result was worth the pain that this put me through. So over here you should have the number of books that I actually managed to complete, and over here you should have the number of books that I did not finish, and the number of candy therefore that I had to eat. And I should have you know that this is more salty licorice than I have had in the last 3 decades. So I hope you respect the lengths at which I will go to for quality content. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.